Recording has started.
Okay. Welcome to Sprint 113 review. We got off to a half-hour delay, but here we go. So I'll do the sprint statistics. Carol's going to do the community update. Harpreet, the UI. Drew on Automate. Joe on Platform. Alberto API. Mike on QE. And documentation, Suyog. And that's it. So let's go. Okay, so we had 214 PRs merged the past 2 weeks, and there's the top 3 repos that had the most amount of PRs merged. And we had 390 PRs still open, with 238 being open this past 2 weeks, and also 214 that were merged. And here are the top 3 PRs by label. So that's bugs, enhancements, and tests, with the others wrapped up into, well, other. And the health report is pretty stable. There was a problem with code climate. So I couldn't get the stats for some of the other repos, a couple of them, but those particular ones don't really change, so there's nothing surprising there. And over to Carol.
Thank you, John. So, is there a bit of echo? Okay, I don't hear that anymore. Great. Yes, the Hammer release. These are being hammered out at a regular cadence. This current one is Hammer 7, and you can find the blog post and information there. Download, try that out, test, whatever. All good stuff. Then last month in ManageIQ, with a very magical post, find what's going to happen to you. And apparently, for me, my mind reveals an absolute void, which explains quite a bit. That's all for this time. Thanks, and next slide, please.
Thanks, Carol. Hi, everyone. Total of 64 PRs merged across the UI repos this sprint. Out of that, there were 13 enhancements, 18 bugs were fixed, and so on. Some of the main highlights on enhancements made during the sprint. For enhancements, an identifier was added to catalog item delete dialog models div to prevent issues with automated tests. Catalog items detail screen was updated to show ownership information. Cloud volume form was updated to use feature detection to determine whether availability zone dropdown should be displayed on the form or not. And on the V2V migration plan wizard, advanced options step, help block was added to provide more info on the fields in the block, whether they are required or optional. Then on mapping wizard in the same area, general step, on the general step, change was made to only show applicable provider types only. And the next few items I'll go over with the screenshots. So next slide, please. We are in a process of converting all our forms to data-driven forms in React. So we have added responsiveness to the forms. As you can see some of the different sizes here, 50, 75, and 100% width of fields. Next slide, please. And here we have few screenshots of some of the cosmetic styling changes that were made to login screen, masthead, and about model for a new Red Hat branding in products. Next slide, please. Our tenants tree was added to catalog item editor and a detail screen to provide users ability to select tenants to whom the service will be available. So you can see on the left, there's a form where a user can select the tenants, and on the right screenshot, you can see the details view with the selected tenants for the catalog item. Next slide, please. An ability to add severity to alerts was added in Control Explorer. And also alerts list view and detail screens were updated to show severity information. Next slide, please. Finally, on the V2V side, breadcrumb page switcher component was added to switch back and forth between plans, mappings, and settings pages. This animated GIF here to show that. And next slide, please. I think that's all I have for the UI. On to Drew.
Since Tina's out, guess who drew the short straw? Thanks, Harpreet. Martin H. made a very cool change to service dialogues to add a versioning system. So newly exported dialogues have an extra export version field, and importing a dialogue looks for that export version and defaults to 1 if it's not found. This is going to be incredibly helpful when debugging customer dialogues, because up until this point we've had no good system for knowing how up-to-date dialogues are from the outside world. Lucy has been on a mission lately to add a general service lifecycle state indicator to aid in determining if a service has been fully provisioned without errors. And to that effort, the column that was called service state got renamed to lifecycle state to better reflect the fact that the column is intended to be an overarching status designation that's used by retirement and provisioning and everything else we do with services. Ramon put in a fix to correct the behavior of generating default values while creating service dialogues from Ansible job templates that have surveys. We had a bug in the API identifiers for retirement, so that got fixed in this sprint. And due to the recently added validations for source and target clusters in transformation mapping items, Lucy updated some specs that are pursuant to those changes for V2V. And then finally, Dan B improved some of our error handling and added an update to the MIQ AE method invoke URI to cause less warnings about unused URI split variables. And for the rest, on to Joe V.
Thank you, Drew. Nicely drawn. And in the platform space, there were 19 PRs merged this sprint. Nick C. made an enhancement to allow logging into Cockpit locally on the server. He did this by removing SE Linux changes to the Cockpit WS and Cockpit SSH. Nick C. also made an enhancement to add CloudWatch logger support. Ian made a few enhancements, a couple to satisfy Code Climate and Rubocop, another to remove the no longer ignored user's hash index and includes method on virtual attributes. He also fixed generated SQL by using non-strings for default scope and to make SQL-friendly attribute names by coding the virtual attribute column names. And he made an enhancement to avoid retrieving extra columns on tenant queries. Next slide, please. There we go. For refactoring, Libor cleaned up some MIQ report code by removing no longer needed method get call type and addressing some typos. And continuing the Ruby and Rails upgrade effort, Joar made a few changes. Some of note are: use the string version of the class name in queries, correctly specify includes to address 5.0 deprecations, and log use of deprecated Rails behavior in production. And I'm sorry if I have this wrong. I think this is related, something Brandon had contributed. I think it's related to the Rails effort by making a change to silence deprecation warnings for the method table exists that do not apply to us. And lastly, Nick C. addressed one bug to add database creation support for the newer EC2 instance types, and another that prevented configuring Postgres SSL certificates. That wraps it up for the platform space. On to Alberto.
Thanks, Joe. So for the API, we have one enhancement that came in this sprint, and this was done by Joe. This is to support filtering against virtual attributes that are of type array. So earlier we had a bug where you can really search for a specific IP address of a VM, but this enhancement is a general purpose, so it's an enhancement. So also a special call out to Keenan to help out with the gory MIQ expression details on this one. So sample usage here, basically you have querying name and addresses of a VM, but you want to search for a specific IP address from that array type field, and that now works like a charm. That's it. Next slide.
Hello, everyone. Mike Shriver from QE. We had a fair number of PRs gone in, but no major changes this sprint. Some of the highlights from the team, We've updated the framework to handle the Postgres and firewall deservice changes, thanks to Yaroslav Henner. We've extended our SSH client to support our upgrade testing by removing strict host key checking. Thanks to Yevgen Spolsky for that update. We've resolved some test collection failures that were related to our test tool for tracking, and that was thanks to Martin Korman and Yevgen again. We've added requirements markers to tests to help organize and select tests for targeted test runs. We have been moving manual tests out of our large generic manual test file into modules specific to those focus areas. We have fixed our automated tests and added automated tests for import-export of reports and widgets, thanks to Parthivala. We have automated import and export of generic object definitions, thanks to Jean Dupuis. We have updates for the common Ansible fixtures. This PR essentially removing a bunch of duplicated code, thanks to Sadyeji. And then we have 2 PRs related to automating template relationships and VM snapshot deletes, thanks to Angelina. So lots of automation from the team. And that's it from me. Thanks.
Okay, Suyog did this slide, but he had to step away. So it looks like the documentation team did 15 PRs merged, and they were all bugs. And there are 2 highlights right there. And that's it. So in 2 weeks, we have Sprint 114 review, and it'll be at the normal 10:30 a.m. Eastern Standard Time slot. Thank you. Goodbye.